Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's been making waves in the UK media recently, and it's related to Brexit. More specifically, the staggering cost overruns on Britain's new border force fleet. And you might have come across this headline already. It's called "The New Border Force Fleet 6 Times Over Budget." It's a pretty shocking story, and it's a perfect case study of the complex challenges that post-Brexit Britain is facing. Now, even though I'm not from the UK myself, this issue speaks volumes about the kind of unforeseen consequences that can follow major political changes like Brexit. So, let's break it down. To start, one of the key arguments for Brexit was the idea of taking back control, particularly control over Britain's borders. And fast forward to today, and we're looking at a situation where border security is being seriously undermined, partly due to mistakes made during the post-Brexit transition. And here's the kicker. These errors could end up costing the British taxpayers 6 times what was originally planned. So, what exactly happened? Well, it turns out that the UK's border force fleet, which is responsible for monitoring Britain's coastline and managing migration in the English Channel, is now delayed until at least 2030. On top of that, the cost to replace the aging fleet has ballooned to £300 million, an eye-watering amount, especially when you consider that the original budget was far, far lower. Now, the reason for this massive price hike stems from an error made when the UK left the European Union. As part of Brexit, the UK had to renegotiate its terms with the World Trade Organization, the WTO. The issue lies in how those negotiations were handled when Liz Truss was Trade Secretary. Basically, the UK failed to exempt the construction of civilian ships from international competition. In other words, British shipbuilders weren't given priority when it came to building the new border force vessels. Instead, the contracts had to be opened up to the global market, which has complicated and delayed the process. And this oversight has had major consequences. Dame Angela Eagle, who's now the UK's Border Security and Asylum Minister, didn't mince her words. She called the situation a complete cock-up and laid the blame squarely at the feet of the previous government. According to Eagle, the mistake was entirely avoidable, and it's led to a massive waste of both time and money. The UK is now stuck with an outdated fleet that is costing a fortune to maintain, while the replacement project has spiraled out of control. So, while the British government is still committed to replacing the fleet, they are now looking at 2030 as the earliest possible delivery date. That's 7 more years of relying on an aging fleet, which, according to Eagle, is far from ideal for ensuring Britain's border security. What's interesting here is that the rules under which the UK is operating are actually similar to those of the European Union, the very institution Britain was trying to leave behind. The EU only applies an exemption to warships when it comes to international competition, and because of that oversight, the UK ended up mirroring the EU's terms when it didn't have to. That's led to a situation where building these ships in Britain is still possible, but will now be much more expensive. To make things even more complicated, the Home Office is now considering military modifications to the fleet, which might allow them to bypass some of the WTO rules and keep the shipbuilding contracts within the UK. However, this solution is also likely to be incredibly costly. A Home Office spokesperson said that maintaining border security remains their top priority, and they are committed to enhancing the UK's ability to track and deter threats at sea. But with the new ships delayed, it's hard to ignore how Brexit and the mistakes made during the process have left the UK in a difficult position. It's also worth noting that this is just one example of how Brexit has complicated things for the UK government. Naomi Smith, chief executive of Best for Britain, summed it up pretty well when she said that this situation is a perfect example of how Brexit, combined with incompetence, has driven up costs and left the UK less secure. Smith argues that the new government has a responsibility to undo the damage and address the barriers to trade that Brexit has created with the UK's closest neighbours. So, what are the takeaways here? Well, for one, Brexit has clearly introduced a number of unexpected challenges for the UK, and in this case, border security, one of the central pillars of the pro-Brexit argument, is being compromised. The mistakes made by the previous government have caused costs to skyrocket and delayed a project that's crucial for the country's safety. It's a reminder that big political decisions like leaving the EU can often have far-reaching and expensive consequences, especially when errors are made along the way. Whether or not Brexit was the right move for the UK is still a hotly debated topic, my opinion. But situations like this show that the road ahead is likely to remain complicated for quite some time. So what do you guys think? Was this just an unfortunate mistake that could have happened to any government? Or does it highlight some of the deeper issues with how Brexit was handled? So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video, which is right here in the end screen.